Farming, it's fun, you know, I'm on the ground, I'm getting dirty, I've got animals, you know. When I first came here, I tried to identify how the market currently looks like. And I saw the problem straight away. Farmers are lacking sort of the education to expand on what they have. The biggest problem in Uganda and Africa as a whole in the agriculture industry is waste. Taking it from the farm to the exporter and then export it to wherever they're sending it to. That's where the gap I identified in the business that I'm starting now. So the exporters know they have a trustworthy person and they know we're coming from farms that have the certifications that they need.
Femi.
Yes.
Welcome to the channel.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
How has it been so far, farming with your father?
Alhamdulillah. It's been a challenge and hassle that we've sort of had some troubles with coming here because I'm not used to the heat. So we've come from, it's hot when you've come from UK, you know? In the UK, all that you get is cold and, you know, winters and snow, and now I've come to just heat every day. So that has been sort of my body getting used to that sort of change in climate. And then it's learning everything about farming. You know, when we first came, I didn't know anything. I think I literally just knew chickens take like the first 4 months to grow, and then they start like doing eggs, but that was my base knowledge, you know. And my dad, he would watch YouTube videos on farming, and we'd see people in Ghana, Nigeria, even some Ugandan creators as well. And he'd always be fascinated about it. So I wanted to know, okay, let me come onto the ground and see what I can do as well. Because my job is marketing and most of it has been building websites, running people's social media. And now obviously I wanted the change, and I wanted to see, okay, what can I sort of do in this industry as well? And agriculture being such a big thing in Uganda, I really wanted to see where I could make my money. And plus, you know, in the UK, it's quite a depressing place. You know, a lot of people want to go to the UK, but, you know, and it has its benefits as well. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but the mood, a lot of the people are kind of depressed, they're sad, and trying to sort of make money there as well can be a hard thing, and it can be an easy thing as well for different people depending on your sector. But I just thought farming, it's fun, you know, I'm on the ground, I'm getting dirty, I've got animals, you know. It seemed more exciting for me. Okay. So that's how I've ended up, and we decided on doing farming with my father.
Are you staying?
Yes, I want to stay in Uganda. I've enjoyed it. The vibe is really nice, you know, and especially if you've got like a connect here, because I still do online work, so I have clients in the UK, and I want to be getting some in Uganda as well, you know, building the websites, running the social media. So that has kept me sort of going, especially if you're getting money from abroad, transferring it to Uganda, it's a lot, you know, it transfers to a lot. So I want to be reinvesting that back in Uganda so I can create my own thing.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. Yeah. You've interacted with some youths of your age in Uganda.
Yeah.
What's the difference? Is there any differences, or we are just the same?
I'd say, because we had a conversation just before the camera, it's Uganda sort of has like a lack of information. And it's like the citizens don't have as much information, because when I first came here, it was a thing of, okay, I tried to identify how the market currently looks like, you know, and I saw the problem straight away. You know, farmers are lacking sort of the education to expand on what they have. Like you had said, there's youths kind of inheriting land right now from their parents, but they don't know what to do with it, so they end up just selling. And, you know, so it's now coming and understanding that when I first came, I just did research. I'm used to that. That's what we're taught in schools, is to go online and get the information. Yeah, so when I came here, it's like I see like a market that's not being placed. I'm like, what is actually going on? Then I did more research and found that it's just access to information, and also how people have been brought up here. Like the teenagers here, then it's not go to Google to search and get information. It's kind of whoever tells you, and then you're going to go with it. And like we had discussed before, people go into schools thinking, I'm going to be lawyer, I'm going to be this. And then it's like, you know, you can always have that, but I thought I'd be an architect, but I ended up going into marketing after. So it's kind of being open to do whatever, but when you've only been given one path, it's hard to know what else is out there. So that's the difference I've seen. It's kind of not having that access to that information.
Now, through the process of farming with your father, were you able to kind of spot like a gap And I don't know, because you do research and you've been doing digital marketing, you must have identified some sort of a gap. Have you?
Yeah. So when I came here, obviously the main goal was to come here to do the farming with my dad, do the chickens. And, you know, it was really nice, but I felt like it was almost I came to do my dad's project. Even though it's like a family, it's all a family thing, and I've come to help him, it almost felt like, okay, this is my dad's thing. And if I want to live in Uganda, I want to make my own sort of thing. And that's the gap that I had identified when I came here. I saw there was exporters, and I knew that a lot of things get exported. Like, you guys have a lot of fener here, right?
Yeah.
But if you, the same price of fener in the UK is like almost £200.
No.
Yeah, it's like 1 million shillings if you wanted to buy it in the UK. So to even find that fruit, it's so rare.
By the way,
So,
you might just find it in Uganda or in
Even
Jamaica.
on the floor.
Just, and even our neighbors, the Kenyans, don't have it. It's
Really?
just in Uganda.
Wow. So you see, so things like that, and I started to see, okay, so exporting, looks like how I would get into the business. I saw that I called through around 200 exporters. One day I just sat and I got all of the information. Once again, online, I researched all the exporters that were in Uganda and called every single one. Literally, I called every single one. There was the Indians. Yeah, the responsive. Some people are like, who are you? But like, I'm good at putting on the professional voice. I've been on call service for a long time. So I've been on calls. So we did the call and I was like, hey, and I had a questionnaire. Do you have some time for a questionnaire? And I asked them, what are the current problems you have with farmers? What are the supply you want? What is the thing? So I found out what they want, the amount that they need, and what their problems were. Biggest problems was supply from farmers and the trustworthiness of farmers. Because some farmer will come and tell the exporter, pests have eaten my land, whatever, Farmer sends money, exporter sends money for pesticides, they didn't even need it. So now some exporters have to send their own person to go pesticide. You see, so there's all these little things, and where the gap I saw was, okay, farmers need the money because it's there, but they maybe don't have the education to properly do it. And then it's then sending all the foods to the exporter, the logistics, you know, getting the trucks to the place and the storage. Because the biggest problem in Uganda and Africa as a whole in the agriculture industry is waste. Waste is one of the biggest ones, right? It's that taking it from the farm to the exporter and then export it to wherever they're sending it to. It's that. So that's where the gap I identified in the business that I'm starting now is finding those farmers, see what you grow in your land, educating them as well on what they could do to expand it, and then bringing all that product to the exporters. So the exporters know they have a trustworthy person and they know we're coming from farms that have the certifications that they need, you know, because the US will want something else, North Korea will have, so making sure those standards are upheld in whatever farm there's there. So that's what I've identified, and hopefully that becomes my thing that keeps me here.
Oh, interesting. And I'm just thinking, you've identified these farmers on this hand and the exporters on this hand. What challenges do you think you're most likely to face in the process?
So obviously, as I've asked a lot of the exporters, the main problem is trust, and it's with me as well. I don't trust. I trust very little. Especially as coming here and like you hear the stories, the reason I wanted to start this business as well is that obviously once we find the cost of the farmers of what they want and the transport costs, we then go to investors in the UK like me, my brother. It's like those people who are working and have that extra money every month that they would like to invest maybe in Africa at home, but they don't have that trustworthy person. It's now obviously the problems I will come in is that these people are trusting me with their money now, and I now need to make sure that the people I'm hiring are also legitimate, you know, because there's so many places that I could get stolen from. The farmer could lie about the amount of kilograms they have. The transporter, whoever's transporter, could steal it, you know. So there's all these little things, and that's probably the problems I'm going to come across with. But I've seen a lot of the time is that a lot of these problems that come is due to poverty, like, you know, so I understand the mindset and I don't blame people a lot of the time. I see that, okay, so maybe a worker hasn't been paid properly, so they've stolen, and I'm seeing all these salary, like someone's not got their salary, so they needed to feed their family, so they stole maize, you know, things like that. So all the workers and people that I'm going to work with, I'm going to tell them straight up, is like, if you're ever in any problems, just, I'd rather you come and you speak to me. we discuss it and I can see how I can help you rather than you stealing. Because if I see anyone stealing, I've dropped them straight away because I don't like that mistrust. And my dad has told me it's not a good way to go, especially in Uganda. You're going to find people, but no, I'm going to have that thing where you can come talk to me as a boss, and you tell me, Fami, I have a wedding, there's not enough money, I need to buy clothes, whatever. Cool, I can sort you out rather than you having to steal to sort yourself out. So that's the sort of things I'm going to put in place to make sure that those things don't happen.
Oh, okay, interesting. How far have you gone into this?
So right now we're collecting farmers' details. Our main goal now is to just find how much acres you have, what you can produce, and if you have more acres that you're not using, then we can make like a plan. So I want to work with these farmers on a one-to-one. I go to visit the farm, see what they've got, and then we can create like a whole plan for what they can do now and what we can do in the future. So right now, literally the exporters have unlimited. So I've never been in an industry where demand is so high but supply is so low. Yeah, so the exporters, when I go to them and say, how much metric tons do you want? They say, give me as much as you can, because there's that much of the demand is like, supply is so low. So once you're able to sort of connect that, I'll keep going until exporters say, listen, we have enough. But right now they want tons on tons, like this big demand. So when I was seeing it, I was so confused as to why is someone not connected, especially the exporters. You want, the farmers are there, but it's that trust and also finding the connection.
Yeah, because I've had some, actually, some of my subscribers coming to me, be like, how many of those broilers can we get like per month? And they want a huge. How about the maize? How many tons can we get in a month? Yeah. And you know, like, they're not sure, even themselves, they don't know how they can go about it. You try to advise them, and within a few days, they disappear. And I think that's a good solution to all those.
And it's that trust. It's having that person you can talk to, and they know the whole connection. Where's my maize? Where is it going? What time is it arriving? And it's
and the logistics. Most of the people, most of the farmers don't know. That we can actually export even outside. But also the other thing, farming, as you're doing this, maybe that could be like the challenge. Like you realize that as you're doing this, there's a need still. Like you find that people still don't have enough. They don't have enough to eat. And so they find it very difficult to actually export when the local market is still lacking, you know? So I think as you go about this, we shall have to find ways of maybe how to educate, like you mentioned. Like most farmers, they lack the education. They need to be educated. Someone may be having like a huge piece of land, but they don't know how to. They can just use a small bit of it, and the rest is just there to waste.
That's what, like, one of the things I was thinking of as well. And it's also making sure that, because the exporters, they usually want, like, if you're getting chili, for example, they're looking for a certain type of chili size, you know, color. So once we're doing all those sortings before we leave the farm, there'll always be some available for the local market, because some exporters say we don't want this type, but these are always can be sold at the catales and everything. So our main goal is to transfer to the exporter, but there's always going to be that excess that we then sell to the local market. So that's how I want to keep promoting. And every place that we enter, obviously we're starting in Uganda, but every place I want to enter, I want to make a charity in the country as well, so Uganda as well, and using that charity to educate and also feed the local people as well, and schools as well, which is, you know, the route I want to go down, inshallah. But yeah, it is a big problem, because if you're not feeding the people who are doing the work, it can become a problem. So, and encouraging them to be like, look, you have your own personal garden the same way we have our personal garden there. This feeds you and your family, your workers. This is the rest, like that, and teaching them that progress, because I've seen that as well. And the work culture here is not the same as UK, so I can't also think that, you know. But I also want to implement the same things the UK has, where if I'm telling you you're going to be paid on the 30th of the month, you're paid on the 30th of the month, you know. So I'm trustworthy as an employer, and you also as an employee know I can work with this guy and he's helping me. So I want to implement those things, but obviously I can't try and think that change will come straight away. But hopefully for the people that want to work with me, the farmers, we get into that system. I'm a very like systemized person. I like structures and systems. So as long as we get in the system and the farmers happy.
Speaking of systems, I was just about to ask, which methodology are you going to use to like make this into like a reality? Because in Uganda, maybe before you do that, I might want to warn you that most people actually, they are still operating offline.
Yeah.
So which method are you going to have which is very sustainable?
So the main method is with the platform that we're going to be developing. So the business is called My Virtual Farm. And the reason why it's called My Virtual Farm is that the people from the UK, the diaspora, they have this, they don't physically own the farm, but when they invest in the crops or the livestock, they almost have a virtual farm. Because let's say someone invests in chili. I know that this farmer has 10 acres of chili, right? They're only using 5. They need the investment of the other 5 to be able to put all the seeds, everything. Investor comes, they pay for that, the amount that would take for the labor, everything for the month. And then every time that plant is harvested, the investor gets their money, the farmer gets their money as well. So the platform itself, like you said, Uganda itself isn't online, but the people who give us the money, they are online. Yeah. So the Ugandans, they just interact with the operating company here. We're the ones, we have farm managers that will go. For example, our farm here, it would have like a farm manager like me. I come, okay, we've signed up maize on the platform, so investors, I come and just check the maize, make sure it's moving. Cool. Every week I come, da-da-da-da. So on the ground, it's the managers and the work team will be there, but the investors from the US, UK, they come on the platform and they can see all the different things that they can invest in. And obviously that's why our goal is to get as many farms as possible. We sign them up knowing their potential. Like this farm has 20 acres, he's only using 5. Then we know what we can put on the platform for investors.
So you're targeting already existing farms?
Yeah, targeting already existing farms. And then as the platform grows, we can get these people in that just have land and they don't have anything. Then we can be like, okay, we need irrigation, because that just needs more investment. So I want to start with people who already kind of got things on the ground, so we can begin the business starts, and then we can start helping people who are on the lower end and even the higher end who are doing big commercial coffee. And yeah, because once you get those people on, then yeah. So that's the plan.
Interesting. So as we wind up this interesting conversation, I want Fami to have a word for our youths here. Like I mentioned to you earlier, you can have, I'm really proud, like even your dad should be proud, even you should be proud of yourself, because back here, you find a home. The father is running a huge operation, a huge farm, but the kids are not involved. The kids are at school. They can't even, they don't know what dad is doing, where the money is coming from. So which advice do you have to such kind of systems, like family systems that are operating like that?
By youth, mulime, you know, you farm, because you know what the motivation for me was understanding that Uganda has such a big agriculture sector. And even if, you know, you want to do other things and, you know, you want to become a lawyer, those can still be dreams of yours that you can work towards. But you need that funding. For everything, you need funding. You need that starter. For the ones that get lucky and you get into the roles you like, alhamdulillah, that's your blessing. But for the ones that, you know, it seems like it's a bit harder to get into the industry, work to the country's strengths. Uganda, agriculture. So just understanding where you could even start with your little money, whether it's chicken, whether it's, you know, small crops. And obviously that's what I want to introduce with my business, is that even if you are a youth and you have small piece of land, whatever, those small chickens still add to a bigger amount because we have multiple farmers. Your provision still helps. So, you know, and there's channels like yours, and watching all of these channels sort of gives you the inspiration for what you want to do, because there's so much, you know, there's goats, there's cows, but understanding which one will be the easiest and financially available for you, and then you work from there. But the youth, just what I'd say, obviously you don't have to follow this advice, is farming. Agriculture is the biggest in Uganda. Just check what your biggest industry is in your country and work to that strength. That would be my advice.
Very good advice. Yeah, you should be, you can be chasing other things but they won't work in your country.
Yeah, exactly. Because I want my life here in Uganda to work, so I knew agriculture would be the thing, and then I could get into apartments and all that stuff later on, but knowing that that's my foundation.
Before we close the video, what has been the most amazing moment when you were farming with your father?
Oh, the most amazing moment. I think there's been times where we've done a few visits, obviously before we had to go and get the cows, and we learned how to like milk the cow. You know, that one was really nice. I like interacting with the animals. Those have been my favorite bit. And also when the chickens, seeing them now, like when you see all of them and you've seen them through this program, they're big, but when they first came, there was loads of small ones, and then when you're walking in the brood and you don't want to step on them, they're so cute, they're just pecking on your feet. Yeah, I really enjoyed seeing like animals and being with animals. I think that's what's even motivated me more to want to just stay here. Yeah.
Wow, and that's a wrap on our interesting conversation with Fami. That's virtual farming. It's some interesting big thing that we should all embrace, you know. And you can get updates on what he's doing. They have a running channel, that's Farming with My Father, and of course that information about virtual farming will be up. It's very fresh, I'm telling you, it's very new. We just found it on Call Me Fridaus, and of course this is where we plant ideas and we harvest results. See you in the next video.
Bye-bye.